The Jefferson County Courthouse smelled like old wood polish and stale coffee. Sarah Rodriguez sat on the hard wooden bench, her knee bouncing nervously as she checked her phone for the third time in 5 minutes. 9:47 a.m. 13 minutes until her custody hearing would determine whether she'd retain full custody of Emma, or if her ex-husband's lawyers would convince the judge that his sudden interest in parenting, after 2 years of silence, was genuine. "Mommy, I'm thirsty," Emma whispered, tugging at Sarah's blazer sleeve. The 3-year-old's curly brown hair was pulled into 2 neat pigtails, secured with the butterfly clips she'd insisted on wearing that morning. Sarah had dressed her in the navy blue dress with white flowers, the one that made Emma look like she was ready for Sunday school. "Just a few more minutes, baby," Sarah murmured, smoothing Emma's hair. Her own hands were clammy despite the courthouse's aggressive air conditioning. She'd spent the last 3 weeks preparing for this moment, gathering report cards from daycare, character reference letters from neighbors, pay stubs proving her stable income as a dental hygienist. Everything to prove she was the fit parent. The hallway bustled with activity. Lawyers in expensive suits hurried past clutching leather briefcases. A young couple argued in hushed, angry whispers near the water fountain. An elderly man sat across from them, his hands folded over a wooden cane, staring at nothing in particular. The wheels of justice turned slowly here, grinding through people's lives with bureaucratic indifference. Emma swung her small legs back and forth, her light-up sneakers blinking with each movement. She'd been so good this morning, patient beyond her years, as Sarah explained they were going to talk to a judge. Emma had asked if the judge wore a crown like in her storybooks. Sarah had laughed, the first genuine laugh she'd had in weeks, and explained it was more like a black robe. "Can I have my goldfish crackers?" Emma asked, pointing to Sarah's purse. Sarah began, but Emma suddenly went rigid. Her daughter's humming stopped mid-note. The little legs ceased swinging. "Mommy," Emma breathed, her voice carrying a strange intensity that made Sarah's maternal instincts flare. "Mommy, look." Sarah followed her daughter's pointing finger down the long corridor. Officer Mike Chen was walking toward the courtroom entrance, his polished boots clicking against the tile floor. Beside him, moving with professional precision, was a magnificent German Shepherd. The dog wore an official K9 vest, its dark eyes alert and scanning the environment with trained efficiency. "That's just a police doggy, sweetie," Sarah said absently, her mind already drifting back to her prepared testimony. She needed to emphasize her stable home environment, her consistent work schedule, the support system of her mother who lived just 10 minutes away. "No, Mommy," Emma's voice rose sharply, cutting through the courthouse murmur. Several heads turned. "That's Duke." Sarah felt her cheeks flush. Emma, inside voice, "That's not." But Emma was already sliding off the bench, her small feet hitting the floor with determination. Before Sarah could grab her, the 3-year-old was running down the hallway, her pigtails bouncing, her light-up shoes flashing rapidly with each step. "Duke, Duke," Emma called out, her arms outstretched. "It's me, it's Emma." Officer Chen stopped, his hand instinctively moving to the dog's lead. The German Shepherd's ears perked forward, but the animal remained professionally still. Sarah scrambled after her daughter, mortified. "I am so sorry," Sarah gasped, reaching Emma and scooping her up. The little girl squirmed in her arms, still reaching for the dog. "She's just excited to see dogs. Emma, that's not our dog." "But it is Duke," Emma insisted, her brown eyes wide and earnest. She looked directly at Officer Chen with the complete confidence only a 3-year-old could possess. "That's Duke. He lives at Mr. Marcus's house." Officer Chen's expression shifted subtly. His eyes, which had been polite but distant, suddenly focused with laser intensity on the child. "Marcus," he repeated carefully. "Who's Marcus, sweetheart?" Sarah felt something cold slide down her spine. The way he said it, not dismissive, not amused, but alert, like a switch had been flipped. "Marcus Webb was our babysitter," Sarah explained quickly, bouncing Emma slightly to calm her. "Until about 3 weeks ago. But honey, that can't be Mr. Marcus's dog because—" "Duke barks at the window," Emma interrupted, her voice taking on that insistent quality she used when adults weren't listening properly. "When the cars go by, and Mr. Marcus puts him in the basement, with all the boxes that smell funny." The words hung in the air like smoke from a discharged gun. Sarah's mouth went dry. Basement? What basement? Marcus had always told her he was taking Emma to Riverside Park after picking her up from daycare. He'd send photos sometimes, Emma on the swings, Emma feeding ducks. Never a basement, never any boxes. Officer Chen's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. His free hand moved to his radio. "Emma," he said, his voice gentle but firm, "this dog's name is Max. He's my partner." "But he looks just like Duke," Emma insisted, then her face scrunched in concentration. "Duke has the ripped ear, see?" She pointed at Max's perfectly intact ears. "Oh, maybe they're brothers." Officer Chen went very still. When he spoke, his voice was carefully controlled. "Ma'am, I need you to stay right here. Don't go anywhere. I'm calling a detective." Sarah's world tilted. "I don't understand. What's—" "Duke barks when the police come," Emma announced helpfully, as if this explained everything. "Mr. Marcus says Duke is a good watcher. He watches for the police cars, and then Mr. Marcus hides the boxes in the basement behind the big door." Officer Chen was already speaking rapidly into his radio, but Sarah could barely hear him over the rushing in her ears. Marcus's house. A basement. Boxes that smelled funny. Police cars. Her baby girl, her precious Emma, describing something that sounded like— No, it couldn't be." But Officer Chen's grim expression, and the speed with which he was calling for backup, told her everything she needed to know. Emma, oblivious to the chaos she'd unleashed, smiled up at Max and gave him a little wave. "Hi, Duke's brother," she said sweetly. Sarah's legs felt weak. She sank back onto the bench, Emma still in her arms, and watched as her entire understanding of the last 6 months crumbled around her. The custody hearing didn't matter anymore. Something much bigger, much darker had just been exposed by a 3-year-old who simply recognized a dog. Detective Lisa Martinez was reviewing surveillance footage in her cramped office when her phone buzzed. The text from Officer Chen contained only 3 words: "Courthouse. Now. Webb." Her coffee cup hit the desk with a clatter, dark liquid splashing across case files she'd been studying for months. Marcus Webb. The name that kept appearing in witness statements like a ghost, always there, never quite solid enough to grab. She was out the door in seconds, her service weapon secured, badge clipped to her belt, mind already racing through possibilities. The drive to the courthouse took 8 minutes. It felt like 8 hours. When she burst through the main entrance, Officer Chen was waiting near the security checkpoint, his K9 Max sitting alert beside him. But it was the woman on the bench who caught Lisa's attention. Young, maybe early 30s, holding a small girl who was happily munching goldfish crackers, as if she hadn't just potentially blown open a major case. "Detective Martinez," Chen said, his voice low and urgent. "This is Sarah Rodriguez and her daughter Emma. Emma just identified my K9 as Duke and claimed he lives at Marcus Webb's residence." Lisa's practice poker face nearly cracked. "Duke," she repeated slowly, kneeling down to the child's eye level. "Sweetie, can you tell me about Duke?" Emma's face lit up. "Duke is Mr. Marcus's doggy. He's really big and he sniffs everything. He sniffed my backpack once and Mr. Marcus gave him a treat." The little girl giggled at the memory, completely unaware of the bomb she just detonated. Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. "Detective, I don't understand what's happening. Marcus was just our babysitter. He'd pick Emma up from Little Learner's daycare 3 days a week, take her to the park for a few hours while I finished my shift at the dental office. He was so good with her. Background check came back clean. He was studying education at the community college. I thought," her voice broke, "I thought she was safe." Lisa pulled out her tablet, fingers moving rapidly across the screen. She'd memorized the web file, every address, every associate, every dead-end lead. Ms. Rodriguez, did Marcus ever mention where he lived? Westside Apartments, Sarah said immediately. The ones on Maple Street. I dropped Emma off there once when my car was in the shop and he'd offered to. She stopped, her face draining of color. Oh God, I let him take her. I dropped my baby off at his apartment. Can you show me which unit? Lisa turned the tablet around, displaying a satellite view of the apartment complex. Sarah's finger hovered over the screen, then moved. Building C, second floor, Unit 217, but I only went up once. He always came down to meet me after that. Lisa's jaw clenched. Building C, Unit 217 wasn't flagged in any of their surveillance, but there was another address, a house on Berkshire Avenue that had pinged 3 times in their investigation. Anonymous tips about late-night traffic, a utility worker reporting suspicious blackout curtains, a postal carrier mentioning the smell of chemicals. She pulled up a photo. Emma, honey, is this Mr. Marcus's house? The 3-year-old leaned forward, studying the image with surprising intensity. Her small finger pressed against the screen. That's it. That's where Duke lives. See the red door. Mr. Marcus painted it red because red is strong, he said. Sarah's hands flew to her mouth. That's not the apartment. Emma, when did you go there? You said you went to the park. You sent me pictures from the park. We did go to the park, Emma insisted, defensive. Sometimes, but sometimes Mr. Marcus said we had to stop at his other house first, to check on Duke because Duke gets lonely. Mr. Marcus has 2 houses, Mommy. The words came faster now, the floodgates open. Emma described the house in detail that made Lisa's blood run cold. The red door, the small front yard with dead grass, the basement door that made a squeaky noise. She talked about Duke barking at the window, how Mr. Marcus would peek through the curtains and then run to the basement. He'd tell me to stay upstairs with Duke, Emma continued, munching another goldfish. He said the basement was dangerous for little girls, too many stairs, but one time I looked, there were so many boxes, big brown boxes stacked up like blocks. Lisa exchanged a look with Officer Chen. Narcotics packaging, it had to be. Emma, Lisa kept her voice gentle, did the boxes smell funny? Like when Mommy cleans the bathroom. It made my nose itch. Mr. Marcus said I had allergies. Emma wrinkled her nose at the memory. Chemical smell. Sarah was openly crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. How many times, Emma, how many times did you go to that house? Emma counted on her fingers, her face scrunched in concentration. Lots, maybe, 10, 20. I don't know, Mommy, I'm only 3. Lisa pulled up call records on her tablet, cross-referencing Sarah's work schedule with Marcus Webb's known movements. Her stomach turned. Based on the daycare pickup times and Sarah's shift patterns, Emma had potentially been at that Berkshire Avenue location 3 times a week for 6 months. 72 visits. 72 times a 3-year-old had been inside an active drug operation. Ms. Rodriguez, Lisa said, fighting to keep her voice steady, I need you to think carefully. When did you last see Marcus Webb? Sarah wiped her eyes with trembling hands. 3 weeks ago. I fired him. He showed up late twice in 1 week, and the second time he seemed off, jittery. His pupils were huge. I thought maybe drugs, so I told him we didn't need his services anymore. He got angry, not violent, but angry, said I was being unfair, that Emma loved him. Did he contact you after that? A few texts, asking to say goodbye to Emma. I ignored them. Then they stopped about 10 days ago. 10 days. Lisa's mind raced. 10 days ago, her team had noticed activity at the Berkshire house had suddenly ceased. No more late-night visitors. No more lights burning until dawn. They'd assumed the operation had relocated, as these groups often did when they sensed heat. But what if Webb hadn't relocated? What if he'd realized his security had been compromised? not by police surveillance, but by a 3-year-old who might talk. "Officer Chen," Lisa said sharply, "I need an immediate welfare check on Marcus Webb's known addresses, both of them." Sarah's face went white. "Detective, is Emma in danger? Does he know that she—" "Right now, Emma is the safest she's been in months," Lisa said firmly, though her gut told a different story. "She's in a courthouse surrounded by law enforcement, but I need to know everything. Every detail Emma can remember. Every conversation you had with Webb. Every text message, email, phone call." Officer Chen was already on his radio, calling for backup units. Max, sensing the tension, remained perfectly still, but his ears were alert, rotating toward every sound. Emma, blissfully unaware of the danger she'd been in, tugged on Lisa's sleeve. "Can I see Duke? The real Duke? Is he at the house with the red door?" Lisa looked at this tiny girl, pigtails, light-up sneakers, goldfish cracker crumbs on her dress, who had just handed them the break they'd been chasing for 8 months. A child who should have been at the park, feeding ducks and playing on swings, had instead been a witness to a criminal enterprise that could have gotten her killed. "We're going to find Duke," Lisa promised, her voice thick with emotion she rarely showed. "And we're going to make sure both of you are safe. I promise you that, sweetheart." Sarah pulled Emma close, rocking her daughter like she was still an infant. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I didn't know. I just needed help. I'm a single mom working full-time and the daycare closes at 6, and I thought he was trustworthy and I—" "Ms. Rodriguez," Lisa interrupted gently but firmly, "you're not the criminal here. Webb is. You did what every parent does. You tried to provide for your child. He's the one who exploited that. He's the one who put Emma in danger." But even as Lisa said the words, she was mentally calculating response times, warrant procedures, and the very real possibility that Marcus Webb already knew his cover was blown. If he'd been monitoring police frequencies, and with a retired K-9, he'd know how. He might already be running. Her phone buzzed. The text from Chen's backup unit made her blood freeze. "Berkshire address empty. Signs of hasty departure. No dog on premises." Marcus Webb was gone, and so was Duke. The hunt was on. Detective Lisa Martinez commandeered a conference room on the courthouse's 3rd floor, transforming it into a makeshift command center within minutes. Her laptop was open, tablet propped beside it, phone on speaker as 3 different units reported in. Sarah and Emma sat in the corner, Sarah white-knuckled and silent, Emma coloring with crayons a bailiff had found. "Talk to me, Chen," Lisa said, packing the small room like a caged animal. "You're K-9, Max. Tell me about his training, his background, everything." Officer Mike Chen stood at attention, though his usual composure showed cracks. "Max is a 4-year-old German Shepherd, trained at the Tri-State K-9 Academy. Narcotics detection, tracking, apprehension. He's been with me for 2 years. Before that, he was with Officer Rodriguez in the Eastern District." Family lineage. He came from a breeding program in Pennsylvania, Champion Bloodlines. His litter produced 5 puppies, all trained for law enforcement or military work. Chen paused, his eyes distant as memory surfaced. Actually, there were complications with one of the littermates. Hip dysplasia showed up early. The dog washed out of the program before completing certification. Lisa's head snapped up. "Name?" "Duke," Chen said slowly, the pieces clicking into place in his mind. The dog's name was Duke. He was retired at 18 months old and put up for adoption through the K-9 Foundation. That was almost 2 years ago. The room went silent, except for Emma's humming as she colored. Lisa's fingers flew across her keyboard, pulling up the K-9 Foundation's database. She'd worked with them before. They were meticulous about record-keeping, ensuring retired police dogs went to good homes. "Access code," she muttered, typing rapidly. The database loaded slowly, each second feeling like an eternity. Come on, she breathed. The file appeared. Duke, male German Shepherd born March 15, 2023. Retired from police training program September 2024 due to medical condition. Status: adopted. Lisa clicked the adoption file. Her heart hammered as the PDF loaded. Adopter name: Michael Webster. Address: 4747 Berkshire Avenue. Background check cleared. References verified. Adoption fee waived due to adopter's law enforcement family connections. Son of a bitch, Lisa whispered. He played them, he played everyone. She spun the laptop around so Chen could see. Michael Webster, Marcus Webb, same person. He used an alias, one that probably shares some real documentation. Fake ID, utility bills, just enough paperwork to pass a basic background check. Sarah stood up abruptly, her chair scraping. Wait, he told me he was studying to be a teacher, criminal justice minor. He said his uncle was a cop in Detroit, that's why he respected law enforcement. I thought, her voice cracked. That's why I trusted him with Emma. He told them the same thing, Lisa said, tapping the screen. See these references. I'll bet money they're either fake or he charmed actual people into vouching for him. It's a classic long con. Get a retired police dog, build a cover story, gain access to families involved in law enforcement or adjacent communities. Officer Chen's jaw clenched. But why? Why specifically target a K-9? Lisa pulled up another screen. Surveillance reports from the Berkshire Avenue investigation. Because a trained narcotics dog doesn't forget its training. Duke may have washed out because of bad hips, but his nose still works perfectly. His alert behaviors are still hardwired. She stood, beginning to pace as the theory crystallized. Webb didn't adopt Duke to give him a good home. He adopted him as a weapon. Think about it. Duke was trained to detect narcotics and to alert to law enforcement presence. K-9s are trained to recognize the scent of officers who work with dogs, the equipment, the vehicles. Duke would alert every time a police K-9 unit came within blocks of that house. Chen's eyes widened in horrified understanding. He was using Duke as an early warning system. Exactly. Every time Duke barked at the window, Webb knew to hide his product. Every time Duke got agitated, Webb knew to check for surveillance. He essentially had a four-legged alarm system that we couldn't detect with any of our countermeasures. Lisa slammed her hand on the table. It's brilliant and sick at the same time. Detective, a uniformed officer poked his head in. Berkshire House is secure. Crime scene is processing, but you need to see what they found. Lisa grabbed her jacket. Sarah, I need you and Emma to stay here with Officer Chen. Don't leave this room. Don't talk to anyone. Wait, Emma's small voice cut through the tension. She'd abandoned her coloring and was standing on her chair, pointing at the laptop screen still showing Duke's adoption photo. That's Duke, but he looked sad there. He wasn't sad at Mr. Marcus's house. He was happy when I came. Lisa's throat tightened. Even in the middle of a criminal operation, the dog had bonded with the child. Emma, sweetie, I need you to think very carefully. Did Mr. Marcus ever talk about going away, taking a trip, moving somewhere? Emma's face scrunched in concentration. He said something about when things got hot. He said that a lot. He'd look at his phone and say, things are getting hot, Duke. I thought he meant the weather. When things got hot, Lisa repeated. Street slang for when police pressure increased. Anything else? Did he mention any names, places? He talked about the border, Emma said thoughtfully. He said at the border, Duke could run free without anyone bothering them. Is the border like a park? Lisa and Chen exchanged sharp looks. Canadian border, Chen said. It's less than 2 hours from here. Lisa's phone rang, Sergeant Williams from the tactical unit at the Berkshire House. She put it on speaker. What do you have, Williams? Detective, this place is a gold mine. Industrial drug packaging equipment in the basement, approximately 50 kilograms of uncut fentanyl, scales, cutting agents. There's also a dog crate large for a German Shepherd-sized animal. Food bowls, toys, a dog bed, and Martinez. Williams paused. There are drawings on the wall, children's drawings, crayon pictures of a little girl and a dog. Sarah let out a strangled sob. Emma had drawn pictures. Her baby had drawn pictures in a drug house like it was a normal place to visit. Bag everything, Lisa ordered. I want every surface printed, every hair and fiber collected. This is now a child endangerment case on top of narcotics trafficking. What's the timeline on the evacuation? Based on the evidence, less than 12 hours. Some food in the fridge is still cold but expired. Garbage hasn't been taken out. He left in a hurry but had some preparation time. There's a wall safe, empty, door left open. He took the money and ran. Lisa's mind raced through possibilities. Webb had maybe a 10-hour head start, probably more. With cash and a vehicle, he could be anywhere. But he had a German Shepherd with hip problems. That limited his options. You couldn't just cross international borders with a dog without paperwork, vaccines, health certificates. Unless Williams, search for veterinary records, any papers related to Duke. He can't cross into Canada without vaccination documents. On it, Lisa turned to Chen. I need you to contact every K-9 unit in the state. Tell them we have a suspect using a retired police dog as a counter-surveillance tool. If Duke alerts to any of them, we'll know Webb is nearby. Also contact Canadian Border Patrol, all crossings within a 3-hour radius. Flag any single male traveling with a German Shepherd. Chen was already dialing. Sarah approached Lisa, her voice shaking but determined. Detective, what can I do? How can I help? Lisa looked at this mother, this woman who'd trusted the wrong person and now had to live with that choice. But Sarah wasn't asking for absolution. She was asking to fight back. Text messages, Lisa said. Every conversation you had with Webb, I need to see them all. His patterns, his language, anything that might tell us where he'd run. Sarah pulled out her phone with trembling hands. As she scrolled through months of messages, cheerful updates about Emma's day, photos from the park, scheduling changes, Lisa saw the meticulous grooming of a predator who'd planned everything. Except for one thing. Marcus Webb hadn't planned on a 3-year-old recognizing his dog. And that mistake was going to cost him everything. Detective Lisa Martinez spread Sarah's phone records across the conference table like a puzzle waiting to be solved. 6 months of text messages, each one a breadcrumb leading deeper into Marcus Webb's calculated deception. Her eyes scanned rapidly, looking for patterns, inconsistencies, anything that felt wrong. Here, she pointed at a message from 4 months ago. He cancels on a Tuesday, says he has a family emergency in Detroit. But then 3 hours later, he's sending you photos of Emma at the park. Sarah leaned over, her brow furrowed. I remember that. I thought it was strange that his emergency resolved so quickly, but Emma looked happy in the photos, so I didn't question it. Lisa pulled up traffic camera footage from that date, her fingers flying across the keyboard. The park is on the east side. Berkshire Avenue is west. If he was really at the park. She paused as the footage loaded. There. That's Webb's Honda Civic heading west on Route 9 at 2:47 p.m. He never went to the park at all. Officer Chen studied the image over her shoulder. He's sending old photos, building a false timeline. Exactly. Lisa scrolled through more messages, her gut instinct screaming that something bigger was hidden in plain sight. Then she saw it, a series of messages that made her pulse quicken. September 3rd, running late, had to stop for Duke's medicine, hip acting up. September 17th, Duke needs his vet appointment next week, might need Emma an extra hour. October 2nd, Duke's doing better, new medication working great. He talked about Duke constantly, Lisa muttered. He was building Duke into the narrative, making sure Sarah knew about the dog. Why? Chen asked. Emma, who'd been quietly coloring, looked up. Because Duke is special. Mr. Marcus said Duke was the smartest dog in the whole world. He said Duke could smell things nobody else could smell. He said Duke was like a superhero. Lisa's blood ran cold. He was telling the truth. Emma, did Mr. Marcus ever have other people come to the house? Men, women? Sometimes, Emma nodded. They'd knock on the door and Duke would bark and Mr. Marcus would look through the window, and then sometimes he'd let them in, and sometimes he'd tell them to go away. One time Duke barked so loud and Mr. Marcus ran to the basement really fast and told me to play with Duke upstairs. We played tug of rope. What happened to the people at the door? Lisa pressed gently. They left. Mr. Marcus came back up and he was sweaty and happy. He gave Duke a big treat and said, "Good boy, you saved us, Duke." Lisa's hands clenched. Duke had alerted to a K-9 unit passing by. She'd bet her badge on it. Webb had hidden his product, played innocent, and the unit had moved on, never knowing they'd been within feet of a major operation. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sergeant Williams. Found vet records. Dr. Patricia Mendoza, Riverside Animal Clinic. Duke's last appointment was 6 days ago. Full health workup and international travel certificate. He was planning to run, Lisa said aloud. 6 days ago, he knew he needed to disappear. She dialed the veterinary clinic immediately. A cheerful voice answered. Riverside Animal Clinic, this is Jenna speaking. This is Detective Lisa Martinez with the Jefferson County Police. I need to speak with Dr. Mendoza immediately regarding a criminal investigation. The line went silent for a moment, then a new voice came on, older, professional, concerned. This is Dr. Mendoza. How can I help you, Detective? Doctor, you recently treated a German Shepherd named Duke, owner Marcus Webb. I need to know everything about that visit. I can't discuss patient information without a warrant. Doctor, Lisa interrupted, this dog is evidence in a felony drug trafficking and child endangerment case. The owner is currently fleeing jurisdiction with the animal. I can have a warrant faxed to you in 10 minutes, or you can help me right now and potentially save that dog's life. A long pause, then, what do you need to know? Everything. Start with why he needed an international travel certificate. Dr. Mendoza's voice was tight with worry. Mr. Webb said he was relocating to Vancouver for a job opportunity. He needed Duke certified for entry into Canada. I performed a full physical, updated all vaccinations, and signed the paperwork. Duke has hip dysplasia, so I also prescribed pain medication for the journey and provided a letter explaining his medical condition in case border officials questioned why he moved stiffly. Lisa's pen flew across her notepad. Did he say when he was leaving? He said soon. He paid in cash. I remember because it was over $400 and he had a stack of 20s. He seemed nervous, asked multiple times if the certificate would definitely get him across the border. Did he mention which border crossing? No, but, Dr. Mendoza hesitated. He asked about ferry schedules. He wanted to know if the certificate would be valid for ferry travel as well as road crossings. Lisa's eyes widened. Ferry, the Victoria Clipper, Seattle to Victoria, British Columbia. That's a 4-hour drive from here, Chen said. Lisa checked her watch, 11:23 a.m. If he left the Berkshire house last night, he could already be in Seattle. The ferry runs multiple times daily. Williams, she barked into her phone. Get Seattle PD on the line. I need every officer they have at the ferry terminal. Suspect is Marcus Webb, traveling with a German Shepherd, likely attempting to board the Victoria Clipper to Canada. She turned to Sarah, whose face had gone pale. Did Webb ever mention Seattle, the Pacific Northwest, anything? Sarah's hands trembled as she scrolled through her messages. Wait here, 3 months ago, he texted. If I ever retire, I'm moving to the San Juan Islands. Peace and quiet, just me and Duke. I thought he was being poetic. I didn't. The San Juan Islands, Lisa repeated. Accessible by ferry from Seattle. Remote, sparse law enforcement, easy to disappear. She grabbed her jacket. Chen, you're with me. We're heading to Seattle. Sarah, you and Emma stay here. I'm assigning protective custody until we have Webb in handcuffs. No, Sarah said firmly, standing up. No, we're coming with you. Ms. Rodriguez, this could be dangerous. That man took my daughter to a drug house 72 times. Sarah's voice cracked with fury and anguish. He used her. He put her in danger. He made her an unwitting witness to God knows what. I need to see this through. I need to look him in the eye when he realizes it was Emma, my baby girl, who brought him down. Lisa studied the woman before her, no longer the terrified mother from an hour ago, but someone who'd found steel in her spine. All right, but you follow my orders exactly. No heroics. Agreed. Agreed. Emma tugged on Lisa's sleeve, her small voice serious beyond her years. Are you going to save Duke? He's not bad, he's just a doggy. Mr. Marcus is the bad one. Lisa knelt down, meeting the child's eyes. We're going to save Duke, sweetheart. I promise. He's going to get the home he deserves. And Mr. Marcus is going to jail for a very, very long time. As they hurried toward the parking garage, Lisa's phone lit up with an incoming call from Seattle PD. She answered, her stride never breaking. Detective Martinez, this is Captain Ramirez, Seattle PD. We just spotted your suspect at the Pier 69 ferry terminal. Male, mid-30s with a German Shepherd. He's in line for the 1:00 p.m. departure to Victoria. Lisa checked her watch again. 11:37 a.m. The ferry left in 73 minutes. Do not approach yet, Lisa ordered. Keep eyes on him but maintain distance. He's experienced with law enforcement surveillance. If he spooks, he'll rabbit and we might never find him. Understood, we'll maintain visual only. Lisa ended the call and broke into a run, Sarah and Emma keeping pace beside her, Officer Chen and Max ahead. The race was on. Marcus Webb thought he was home free, boarding a ferry to a new life with his stolen dog and his blood money. He had no idea that the 3-year-old he'd so carelessly exposed to his crimes had just set in motion the end of everything. The drive to Seattle was a blur of sirens and adrenaline. Detective Lisa Martinez pushed the unmarked police cruiser to 90 miles per hour on I-5, weaving through traffic with Officer Chen's patrol vehicle close behind. Sarah sat in the passenger seat, gripping the handle above her door, while Emma was secured in a borrowed car seat in the back, remarkably calm for a 3-year-old in the middle of a high-speed chase. How much time? Sarah asked, her voice tight. Lisa glanced at the dashboard clock. 32 minutes until the ferry departs. We're 28 minutes out if traffic cooperates. She keyed her radio. Captain Ramirez, status update. The Seattle PD captain's voice crackled through. Suspect still in boarding line. Gate hasn't opened yet. He's fidgety, keeps checking his phone, looking around. The dog is lying down, appears calm. We have 4 plainclothes officers positioned around the terminal. SWAT is on standby if this goes sideways. Good, maintain distance. We're 6 minutes out. Lisa's mind ran through a dozen scenarios, each more dangerous than the last. Webb was desperate, possibly armed, and had nothing to lose. Cornering him in a crowded ferry terminal with hundreds of civilians was a nightmare scenario. But letting him board that ferry to Canada meant losing him forever in the legal maze of international jurisdiction. Emma's small voice piped up from the backseat. Detective Lisa, is Duke scared? Lisa's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror, meeting the child's concerned gaze. I don't know, sweetheart, but dogs are brave, especially dogs like Duke. He's going to be okay. Mr. Marcus gets mean when he's scared, Emma said quietly, her words chilling in their simplicity. One time a car backfired and he yelled really loud and grabbed Duke's collar too tight. Duke yelped. I didn't like it. Sarah twisted in her seat, reaching back to hold her daughter's hand. Baby, you never told me that. Mr. Marcus said it was a secret. He said if I told, I couldn't see Duke anymore. Emma's eyes filled with tears. I didn't want Duke to be lonely. Lisa's jaw clenched. Webb had manipulated a child's empathy, using her love for a dog to ensure her silence. Another charge to add to the growing list. The Seattle skyline emerged ahead, the Space Needle piercing the gray afternoon sky. Lisa took the exit to the waterfront, tires squealing as she navigated the tight turns. The ferry terminal came into view, a sprawling structure of glass and concrete, bustling with tourists and commuters. Ramirez, we're pulling in now. Direct us to your position. East parking structure, level 3. We have eyes on the subject from the pedestrian bridge. Lisa parked in a marked police zone, killed the engine, and turned to Sarah. You stay in the car with Emma. Doors locked. If anything goes wrong. I know, I call 911 and drive away. Sarah's hand gripped her daughter protectively. But detective, please bring Duke back safely for Emma. Lisa nodded, already moving. She met Officer Chen and Max at his vehicle. Your dog recognizes Duke as a littermate. He will, Chen confirmed. They haven't seen each other in 2 years, but the bond should still be there. It might actually help. Duke might respond to Max in a way he won't respond to Webb. They moved quickly through the terminal, badges displayed, eyes scanning. Captain Ramirez, a stocky man with gray temples and sharp eyes, met them at the pedestrian bridge. He handed Lisa a pair of binoculars. Third window from the left, ground floor boarding area. Blue jacket, black baseball cap. Lisa focused the binoculars. There he was. Marcus Webb looked different from his DMV photo. Thinner, harder, a scraggly beard covering his jaw. But it was definitely him. And beside him, lying patiently on the concrete, was Duke. Even from a distance, the resemblance to Max was striking. Same coloring, same build, though Duke's movements were stiffer when he shifted position. The hip dysplasia was visible in the way he favored his left side. We need to move before boarding starts, Lisa said. Once he's on that ferry, this gets exponentially more complicated. Agreed, Ramirez said. How do you want to play this? Lisa studied the layout. The boarding area was too exposed, too many civilians, but the line snaked through a covered walkway first, narrower, more controlled. We take him in the walkway. Plainclothes officers close in from both sides. Chen and Max approach from the front. The dog, seeing Max, might distract Webb long enough for us to move. And if he runs? He won't get far, not with a dog that has bad hips. Lisa checked her service weapon, ensuring a round was chambered. But if he goes for a weapon, we take him down hard. I'm not risking civilian lives. They moved into position, a carefully choreographed dance of law enforcement. Lisa entered the walkway from the rear, her badge concealed, looking like any other traveler. 2 plainclothes officers flanked her at intervals. Officer Chen and Max waited at the entrance, just out of Webb's line of sight. Lisa's earpiece crackled. All units in position. You have green light, detective. She moved forward, closing the distance. 15 feet, 10 feet. She could see Duke clearly now, his torn ear exactly as Emma had described. The dog's head lifted, nostrils flaring. He'd caught an unfamiliar scent. Webb noticed Duke's alert and tensed, his hand moving to his jacket pocket. Now, Lisa barked. Officer Chen and Max appeared at the walkway entrance. Duke's reaction was immediate. His tail started wagging, a whine escaping his throat. He recognized his brother. Max responded, pulling forward on his lead, also whining. Webb's head snapped around, his eyes widening in recognition and horror. No, he breathed. No, no, no. Marcus Webb, police, hands where I can see them. Lisa's gun was drawn, aimed center mass. Webb's hand was still in his pocket. It wasn't. Hands now. Time seemed to slow. Webb's eyes darted, calculating odds, measuring distances. Duke stood, confused by the tension, looking between his master and his brother. The dog took a step toward Max. "Duke, heel," Webb commanded, his voice sharp. But Duke didn't heel. The dog had been trained by the best, and somewhere in his canine memory, he recognized authority when he heard it. He recognized the tone of a real police officer. He took another step toward Max. Webb grabbed for Duke's collar, but the dog was too far away. Plainclothes officers surged forward. Webb yanked something from his pocket. "Gun," someone shouted. But it wasn't a gun. It was a phone. Webb hurled it over the railing into the Puget Sound below, destroying evidence, then raised his empty hands. "Don't shoot, I'm unarmed." Lisa was on him in seconds, forcing him face down, knee in his back, cuffing his wrists with practiced efficiency. "Marcus Webb, you're under arrest for drug trafficking, child endangerment, exploitation of a law enforcement animal, and fleeing to avoid prosecution." Civilians screamed and scattered. Ferry employees rushed to secure the area. And Duke, confused and frightened by the chaos, pulled free and ran straight toward the parking structure. "Duke," Officer Chin called, releasing Max. "Max, find." The two German shepherds disappeared into the crowd, and Lisa's heart sank. After everything, they were losing the dog. But then a small voice cut through the chaos. "Duke." Emma had slipped away from Sarah, running toward the terminal entrance. The German shepherd stopped mid-stride, his head swinging around. He saw the little girl, the one who'd played with him, who'd given him treats, who'd loved him despite everything. Duke's tail wagged. He trotted to Emma, licking her face as she wrapped her small arms around his neck. "Good boy," Emma whispered. "You're safe now, you're safe." Sarah caught up, breathless and crying, as Officer Chin approached slowly with Max. The two dogs touched noses, tails wagging, brothers reunited. Marcus Webb, face pressed against the concrete, could only watch as the 3-year-old he'd manipulated brought his entire operation crashing down. "You shouldn't have brought me to your house," Emma said, looking directly at him with surprising steel in her young voice. "Duke deserved better, and so did I." Webb closed his eyes, defeated. Justice, it turned out, spoke with the voice of a child. 3 weeks after Marcus Webb's arrest, the Jefferson County Courthouse was packed to capacity. What had started as a routine custody hearing had exploded into one of the most sensational criminal cases in the county's history. News vans lined the street outside, reporters jockeying for position, camera crews filming constant updates. Judge Patricia Reynolds presided over the preliminary hearing, her silver hair pulled back severely, her expression unreadable behind wire-rimmed glasses. She'd been on the bench for 23 years and thought she'd seen everything. Today would prove her wrong. Marcus Webb sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, his court-appointed attorney, Robert Hastings, shuffling papers nervously beside him. Webb's transformation from friendly babysitter to hardened criminal was complete. His eyes were cold, calculating, devoid of the warmth he'd shown Emma during their time together. Detective Lisa Martinez took the stand first, her testimony methodical and damning. She walked the court through the investigation, the Berkshire Avenue house, the 50 kilograms of fentanyl, the industrial packaging equipment, the financial records showing Webb had moved over $2 million in drug money through various accounts over 18 months. Detective Martinez, Assistant District Attorney Jennifer Parks asked, her voice sharp and clear, "Can you explain the defendant's use of the animal called Duke in his criminal enterprise?" Lisa straightened. Duke is a German shepherd who was trained for law enforcement but retired early due to medical issues. The defendant adopted him specifically to exploit his training. Duke retained his ability to detect narcotics and alert to law enforcement presence. Mr. Webb used the dog as a counter-surveillance tool, allowing him to hide evidence whenever police K-9 units approached his location. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Judge Reynolds banged her gavel. "Order." "How did you become aware of this operation?" Parks continued. "Through the testimony of a 3-year-old witness." The courtroom erupted. Reporters scribbled furiously. Judge Reynolds's gavel cracked like thunder. I said order. Robert Hastings jumped to his feet. Your Honor, this is preposterous. The prosecution's entire case rests on the words of a toddler. This is a mockery of... Mr. Hastings, Judge Reynolds's voice could freeze lava, you'll have your opportunity for cross-examination. Sit down. Lisa continued, describing how Emma had identified Duke, how her innocent observations had cracked open an investigation that had stalled for months. She presented the evidence systematically. The veterinary records showing Webb's preparation to flee, the international travel certificates, the cash payment, the surveillance footage from the Seattle ferry terminal. Detective, did you find anything else at the Berkshire Avenue residence? Parks asked. Lisa's jaw tightened. Yes. In the basement, we found children's drawings on the wall, crayon pictures drawn by Emma Rodriguez. There were 17 distinct drawings, which corroborates our timeline that she was brought to the drug house approximately 72 times over 6 months. Sarah, sitting in the gallery with Emma beside her, felt tears stream down her face. Emma, blessedly, was occupied with a coloring book, unaware of the gravity of the proceedings. We also found a ledger, Lisa continued, pulling out a plastic evidence bag containing a leather-bound notebook. Mr. Webb kept meticulous records, not just of his drug transactions, but of his surveillance activities. He logged every time Duke alerted to law enforcement presence. Over the 18 months he operated from that location, Duke alerted 93 times. 93 times that police passed by, and Mr. Webb successfully hid his operation. Judge Reynolds leaned forward. 93 times. Yes, Your Honor, including 4 occasions where K-9 units were specifically conducting narcotics sweeps in the neighborhood. Duke's alerts allowed Mr. Webb to evade detection every single time. The defense attorney stood for cross-examination, but his heart clearly wasn't in it. Detective Martinez, isn't it true that you have no direct evidence my client intended to harm Emma Rodriguez? He brought a 3-year-old child to an active drug house 72 times. The fentanyl in that basement could have killed her with a single accidental touch. Intent is irrelevant. The endangerment is fact. But Emma was never harmed. Because she got lucky, Lisa's composure cracked slightly. Because she happened to have the sense not to touch the boxes that smelled funny. Because Marcus Webb was more careful with her life than he had any right to be. But make no mistake, counselor, every single time he brought that child to that house, he was gambling with her life. Hastings retreated, knowing he was losing badly. The prosecution called their next witness. The state calls Sarah Rodriguez. Sarah took the stand, her hands trembling as she was sworn in. She testified about hearing Webb, about trusting him, about the background check that had come back clean because Webb had used an alias with no criminal record attached. Ms. Rodriguez, Parks asked gently, did you have any indication that Mr. Webb was involved in criminal activity? None. He was perfect, too perfect, I realize now. He was always on time, always patient with Emma, always had references. He seemed like a godsend for a single mother working full-time. Sarah's voice broke. He played me. He used my desperation, my need for childcare to gain access to my daughter, and I let him. Ms. Rodriguez, you are not on trial here. But I feel like I am. Sarah's anguish filled the courtroom. Every day I ask myself how I missed it, how I didn't see that he was taking my baby to a drug house. What kind of mother doesn't know where her child is? Judge Reynolds's expression softened slightly. Ms. Rodriguez, the court recognizes that you were a victim of the defendant's deception. Please continue. Sarah composed herself, wiping her eyes. She testified about firing Webb, about his angry reaction, about the text he'd sent asking to see Emma one last time. Parks entered the text messages into evidence, showing Webb's escalating desperation as his convenient cover story. The innocent babysitter fell apart. Then came the moment everyone was waiting for. The state calls Emma Rodriguez. A collective intake of breath filled the courtroom. Hastings objected immediately. "Your Honor, she's 3 years old. This is highly irregular." "And this is a preliminary hearing, not a trial," Judge Reynolds countered. "I'll allow limited testimony to establish probable cause. The child will not be subjected to aggressive cross-examination. Are we clear, Mr. Hastings?" "Yes, Your Honor," he mumbled. Emma was brought forward, Sarah accompanying her to the stand. The bailiff had found a booster seat so Emma could see over the witness box. She looked tiny in the formal courtroom, her pigtails tied with rainbow ribbons, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Jennifer Parks approached with a warm smile, kneeling to Emma's eye level. "Hi, Emma. Do you know why we're here today?" "To talk about Mr. Marcus and Duke," Emma said clearly, her small voice amplified by the courtroom microphone. "That's right, Emma, I'm going to show you some pictures. Can you tell me if you recognize anyone?" Parks displayed a photo array on a large screen, 6 men, all similar in appearance to Marcus Webb. Emma studied them carefully, her small face serious. Then her finger pointed confidently at photo number 4. "That's Mr. Marcus. He was my babysitter." "Are you sure?" "Yes, he has the mole by his eyebrow. See?" Emma pointed at the screen where indeed photo 4 showed Webb with a distinctive mole. Parks nodded and displayed a new array, 6 German Shepherds, all similar in coloring and build. "Now, Emma, can you tell me if you see Duke?" Emma hopped down from her seat, walking right up to the screen. She studied each dog carefully, then pressed her finger against photo number 3. "That's Duke. He has the ripped ear right there." She traced the outline of the distinctive torn ear that Duke had gotten during training. The courtroom was silent. A 3-year-old had just made a positive identification with more confidence than many adult witnesses. "Emma," Parks asked gently, "did you like going to Mr. Marcus's house?" "Sometimes. Duke was nice, but the basement was scary and it smelled bad and made my nose itch." Emma scrunched her face at the memory. "Mr. Marcus said I was allergic, but I'm not allergic to anything. Mommy said so." "What did you see in the basement?" "Boxes, lots and lots of brown boxes, and machines, and bags of white powder like flour, but it wasn't flour because Mr. Marcus said never to touch it ever or I'd get very sick." The implications hung in the air. Webb had warned Emma away from the drugs, aware of their lethality, yet still brought her into their presence repeatedly. Parks showed one final image, the children's drawings found on the basement wall. "Emma, did you draw these?" Emma's face lit up. "Yes, that's me and Duke playing, and that's me and Duke with the ball. Mr. Marcus put them on the wall. He said I was a good drawer." Marcus Webb's head dropped into his hands. Even his attorney looked disgusted. Judge Reynolds surveyed the courtroom, her expression grave. "I've seen enough. The defendant is bound over for trial on all charges: drug trafficking, child endangerment, animal exploitation, and fleeing to avoid prosecution. Bail is denied. This court is adjourned." As Webb was led away in handcuffs, he looked back at Emma one last time. The little girl who'd trusted him, who'd loved his dog, who'd innocently spoken the truth that destroyed his carefully constructed empire. Emma waved at him, still not understanding that she was the hero of this story. But everyone else in that courtroom understood perfectly. 2 weeks after the preliminary hearing, Detective Lisa Martinez sat in the interrogation room across from Marcus Webb, a thick file between them. Webb's attorney, Robert Hastings, looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, his suit wrinkled. The evidence was overwhelming, and everyone in the room knew it. "My client is prepared to cooperate," Hastings said quietly, "in exchange for consideration on sentencing." Lisa leaned back, arms crossed. "Cooperate how? We already have everything. The drugs, the money, the witnesses. Your client's ledger reads like a criminal instruction manual." Webb finally looked up, his eyes hollow. You don't have everything, you have me. You don't have the network. Lisa's pulse quickened, but she kept her expression neutral. I'm listening. I want full immunity, Webb said. Not happening. Reduced sentence then. Minimum security facility, protective custody. Why would you need protective custody, Marcus? Lisa asked, leaning forward. Who are you afraid of? Webb's jaw clenched. His hands, cuffed to the table, trembled slightly. I was middle management, a distribution point. The fentanyl came from somewhere, detective. 50 kilos doesn't just appear, and the people who supplied it don't like loose ends. Over the next 3 hours, Webb laid out an operation that made Lisa's initial investigation look like child's play. He named names: suppliers in Vancouver, distributors in Portland, money launderers in San Francisco. He described a network that moved hundreds of kilograms of fentanyl down the West Coast every month. And Duke, Lisa asked, where does he fit into this? Webb's expression shifted, something almost like regret crossing his face. Duke was insurance. I knew the cops were watching the neighborhood. I'd seen unmarked cars, noticed the patterns. But with Duke, I had advance warning every time a K-9 unit came within 3 blocks. His nose is that good. He'd alert, I'd hide everything, they'd drive by, and I'd be clear. You exploited a retired police dog for criminal enterprise. I gave him a purpose. Webb snapped, the first real emotion he'd shown. He washed out of the program, failed, became useless. I gave him a job. He was good at it. He was. Webb stopped himself. He was what? Lisa pressed. He was my partner, Webb said quietly. The only thing in this whole mess I actually gave a damn about. And that kid, Emma, she saw that. Dogs know. Duke knew she was innocent. He protected her in his own way. Never let her near the basement when I was packaging. Always stayed between her and the product. Lisa felt a chill. Even the dog had more conscience than the man. Where's the main supply coming from? She demanded. The Vancouver connection, names, addresses, everything. Webb provided coordinates, dates of scheduled deliveries, names of contacts. Lisa recorded every word, knowing this information would fuel investigations across multiple jurisdictions for years. But one question nagged at her. Why Emma? Why specifically use a child as cover? Webb's laugh was bitter. Because no cop suspects a babysitter. Single mom, cute kid, guy studying education, it's invisible. I'd take Emma to the park, let her play, take photos, build a timeline. Then I'd swing by the Berkshire house, check on Duke, do my work. Emma never knew. She thought we were visiting my dog. Perfect cover. Until she recognized Duke in the courthouse. Yeah, Webb's voice was hollow. Until that. 3 years old, and she brought down my entire operation with 6 words. That's Duke from Mr. Marcus's house. Lisa stood, gathering her files. For what it's worth, Webb, you're going to federal prison for a long time. But the fact that you kept Emma safe, that Duke kept her safe, that might buy you a few years off your sentence. Maybe. What's going to happen to Duke? Webb asked suddenly, desperately. He didn't do anything wrong. He was just being a dog. Duke's in protective custody with Officer Chen and Max. They're littermates. They're together now. After the trial, Chen and his wife are officially adopting him. He'll retire properly this time. No more being used. Webb nodded slowly, and for a moment Lisa saw genuine relief cross his face. Good, that's good. He deserves that. Miles across town, in Officer Mike Chen's backyard, 2 German shepherds played in the afternoon sun. Max and Duke chased a tennis ball, Duke moving stiffly but happily, his tail wagging for what seemed like the first time in months. Chen's wife, Amy, watched from the porch, a smile on her face. He's settling in beautifully. You'd never know he'd been through trauma. Dogs are resilient, Chen said, tossing the ball again. And Duke's got good genes. He just needed to get away from that life. The doorbell rang. Amy went to answer it, returning moments later with Sarah and Emma. The little girl's face lit up when she saw Duke. Duke, Emma ran across the yard, and the German shepherd bounded toward her, as much as his bad hips allowed, tail wagging furiously. Emma wrapped her arms around his neck, burying her face in his fur. "I missed you." Sarah approached Chen, her expression grateful. "Thank you for this. Emma's been asking about Duke every day. Her therapist said seeing him happy and safe would help with her processing everything." "Any time," Chen said warmly. "Emma saved Duke as much as she exposed Webb. They're bonded. We wouldn't keep them apart." Emma played with both dogs, throwing the ball, laughing as they brought it back. She showed no signs of trauma, no fear. In the way of children, she'd compartmentalized. Mr. Marcus was bad, but Duke was good. The dog was blameless. "How are you holding up?" Chen asked Sarah quietly. "Better. Therapy helps. The prosecutor says Webb's cooperation means this will probably plead out. Emma won't have to testify at a full trial. That's a relief." Sarah watched her daughter play. "I still can't believe I didn't see it. All those times." "Sarah," Chen interrupted gently, "you're not the criminal here. Webb is. He was a professional con artist. He fooled everyone: cops, social workers, the K9 Adoption Foundation. You did what any parent does. You trusted when you had no reason not to trust." Sarah nodded, but the guilt still lingered in her eyes. Emma ran back, breathless. "Mommy, can Duke come to my birthday party, please? He's my best friend." Sarah looked at Chen, who smiled. "I think we can arrange that." "Really?" Emma jumped up and down, her earlier composure forgotten in pure childish joy. "Duke, you're coming to my party. We're going to have princess cake and everything." Duke barked, his tail wagging, and for a moment, everyone forgot about drug trafficking in courtrooms and the darkness that had touched all their lives. In that moment, there was just a little girl, a dog, and the simple joy of friendship. 6 months later, the morning sun streamed through the windows of courtroom 4B as Judge Patricia Reynolds prepared to deliver sentencing in the case of United States v. Marcus Webb. The gallery was full but subdued, no reporters allowed today. This was about justice, not spectacle. Marcus Webb stood before the bench in his orange jumpsuit, thinner than before, his shoulders slumped in defeat. His cooperation had dismantled a major drug trafficking network, but it couldn't erase the damage he'd caused. Judge Reynolds surveyed the courtroom, her gaze settling briefly on Sarah and Emma in the third row. Emma wore her favorite yellow dress and held Sarah's hand tightly. Duke's adoption had been finalized last month, and Emma visited him twice a week. The nightmares had finally stopped. "Mr. Webb," Judge Reynolds began, her voice carrying the weight of authority, "I've presided over thousands of cases in my career. I've seen violence, betrayal, and cruelty in forms that would shock most citizens. But your case stands apart, not for its brutality, but for its calculated manipulation of innocence." Webb kept his eyes down, his jaw clenched. "You didn't just traffic drugs, you weaponized trust. You exploited a mother's need for childcare, a child's love for animals, and a retired police dog's loyalty. You brought a 3-year-old child, a baby, into an environment that could have killed her with a single wrong touch. 72 times you gambled with her life. 72 times you chose your criminal enterprise over her safety." Sarah's grip on Emma's hand tightened. Emma, not fully understanding the proceedings, colored quietly in a coloring book Officer Chen had given her. "Your cooperation with federal authorities has been noted," the judge continued. "The DEA reports that your information led to 27 arrests and the seizure of substantial quantities of fentanyl, drugs that would have poisoned communities across the West Coast. That cooperation has earned you consideration." Webb's attorney, Robert Hastings, exhaled quietly. "However," Judge Reynolds' voice hardened, "your crimes against Emma Rodriguez cannot be ignored. The psychological evaluations indicate she shows remarkable resilience, but the betrayal of trust she experienced will impact her for years to come. She trusted you. Her mother trusted you, and you violated that trust in the most egregious way possible." The judge paused, consulting her notes. Marcus Daniel Webb, I hereby sentence you to 15 years in federal prison for drug trafficking, followed by 10 years of supervised release. Additionally, you are sentenced to 5 years for child endangerment, to run consecutively, and 2 years for exploitation of a law enforcement animal, also consecutive. Your total sentence is 22 years in federal custody. A sob escaped from somewhere in the gallery, Webb's elderly mother, who'd attended every hearing. Furthermore, Judge Reynolds continued, upon release, you are permanently barred from any employment involving children or animals. You will register as a child endangerment offender. And Mr. Webb, you should count yourself fortunate that Emma Rodriguez suffered no physical harm. If she had, we'd be having a very different conversation. Webb nodded almost imperceptibly, his face pale. This court is adjourned. The gavel fell with finality. 3 weeks later, Emma's 4th birthday party transformed the Chen family's backyard into a princess wonderland. Pink streamers hung from trees, a bounce house dominated one corner, and a table groaned under the weight of gifts and a magnificent castle-shaped cake. 20 children ran and screamed and laughed with the pure, unrestrained joy of childhood. But Emma's favorite guest wasn't another child. It was Duke, wearing a sparkly birthday hat that Amy Chen had secured to his head with elastic. Duke, sit, Emma commanded, holding up a dog treat. Duke sat immediately, his training still sharp despite retirement. Good boy, she gave him the treat, then wrapped her arms around his neck. You're the best birthday present ever. Sarah watched from the porch, talking with Lisa Martinez, who'd become something of a family friend over the past months. Officer Chen and his wife stood nearby, keeping a watchful eye on the children and dogs. Max was also present, sporting a matching birthday hat. How's she really doing? Lisa asked quietly, sipping lemonade. Better than I dared hope, Sarah admitted. Her therapist says she's processing everything remarkably well. She understands that Mr. Marcus made bad choices, but she doesn't blame herself or Duke. Children are resilient in ways adults forget. And you? Sarah's smile was tinged with sadness. I'm working on it. The guilt doesn't disappear overnight. I wake up sometimes thinking about all the times I dropped her off, all the times I didn't ask enough questions. But my therapist reminds me that I was the victim of a con artist, not a negligent parent. She's right, Lisa's voice was firm. Webb fooled everyone. Background checks, references, even the K9 Adoption Foundation. He was a professional. Emma ran over, breathless and grinning. Mommy, can Duke sleep over tonight, please? Sarah laughed. Duke has his own home with Officer Chen, remember, but you can visit him again this weekend. Okay. Emma accepted this easily and ran back to the party, Duke trotting faithfully beside her. She's something special, that kid, Lisa said, watching Emma organize the other children into a game. The DA's office created new protocols because of her testimony, training for interviewing child witnesses, guidelines for protecting them during proceedings. She changed the system. She changed a lot of things, Sarah agreed. The local news wanted to do a feature on her, called her the little detective who broke the drug ring. I shut that down immediately. She's 4 years old. She deserves a normal childhood, not fame. Good call. Officer Chen approached, Max at his side. Sarah, I wanted you to know, Duke's final medical evaluation came back. The vet says his hips are stable. With proper medication and moderate exercise, he should have years of good quality life ahead of him. That's wonderful, Sarah's eyes misted. Emma will be so happy. He's part of our family now, Chen said warmly. And that means Emma is too. You both are. Anytime you need anything, day or night, you call us. Sarah nodded, too emotional to speak. As the sun set over the birthday party, Emma sat on the grass with Duke's head in her lap, surrounded by torn wrapping paper and half-eaten cake. Max dozed nearby, the two littermates finally living the peaceful retirement they deserved. "Duke," Emma said seriously, stroking his torn ear, "Officer Chen says you're a hero dog. He says you helped catch the bad guys even though you didn't mean to." Duke's tail thumped against the ground. "I think you're a hero too, and you know what? You don't have to smell bad boxes anymore. You just get to play and eat treats and be happy." She kissed the top of his head. "That's what heroes deserve." Sarah watched from the porch, tears streaming freely now. Her daughter, her brave, innocent, remarkable daughter, had survived something no child should experience, and somehow, impossibly, she'd emerged stronger. Lisa joined Sarah, handing her a tissue. "Judge Reynolds wants to present Emma with a civilian commendation. Nothing public, just a private ceremony. Recognition for her role in the case." "She'd like that," Sarah said, "as long as it's just us. No cameras, no press." "Understood." As darkness fell and the party wound down, Emma curled up against Duke, fighting sleep. The German shepherd remained perfectly still, protecting the small girl who'd saved him as surely as she'd saved herself. Officer Chen carried Emma to Sarah's car, the child barely stirring. "She's going to be okay," he said softly. "They both are." Sarah looked back at Duke, standing alert in the driveway, watching until Emma's car disappeared around the corner. Even in retirement, the dog remained a guardian. "Yes," Sarah whispered, "they are." Later that night, after Emma was tucked into bed, Sarah sat alone with a cup of tea and thought about the journey they'd traveled. From a courthouse hallway where a 3-year-old had pointed at a dog, to a birthday party where that same child laughed without fear. Justice had many faces. Sometimes it wore the robes of a judge, sometimes it carried a detective's badge, and sometimes, just sometimes, it spoke with the clear, honest voice of a child who simply told the truth. Marcus Webb would spend the next 2 decades in prison. Duke would spend his remaining years loved and safe. And Emma would grow up knowing that her voice mattered, that speaking truth, no matter how scary, could change everything. On Emma's nightstand beneath her nightlight sat a photograph, a little girl with pigtails hugging a German shepherd with a torn ear. Both were smiling. Heroes come in all sizes. Sometimes the smallest among us shine the brightest. The end.